I lost 90% of my business overnight. Never in my life since the beginning of time have I ever thought about financial success, because I believe money comes and goes and I'll be successful always, anyway, regardless. You can't let yourself slip up once. You have to be on top of your own shit all day, every day. I'm very resilient and I'm incredibly self-empowered to know that no matter how difficult things get, I know I'm going to be okay. If I don't feel my feelings, if I don't let myself have that moment, you don't process it and you hold on to it and you store it and you get sicker. How can we create something that allows us to have a platform for education, inspire people, have it be the healthiest product in the world, but also the quality that we're so obsessed with? And that's how the Sol Cup is born.
Now, I heard a story about you 2 weeks before you even had the final physical sample. And you sell something like 6,000 units pre-sale.
I had this one clear vision. It's every single cafe and coffee roaster has to know me by first and last name. It's 8,000 cups. It's a lot of money to outlay, but we believe in you. You've got 6 weeks to sell it, and we did it in 2.
Over the past few years, my life has completely changed. I've built one of Australia's most successful e-commerce startups, Happy Skin Co., generating over 10 million per year in sales and disrupting a $1 billion industry in the process. I've now turned my passion for growth and personal development to bring you these honest and eye-opening conversations. This isn't just a business podcast. This is about the person underneath. This is about the journey. This is what it's really like. I'll be interviewing guests from all walks of life, each with their own unique perspectives and experiences, from the hardest day of their life to the biggest accomplishments and everything in between. My name is Mullan, and this is Life, Money and Love. All right, cool. We're back for another episode today. We have Rebecca Vexler. So she's obviously known as the founder of Sol Cups. And I didn't realize this, that you're also the vice president of the Bondi Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, not anymore.
Not anymore.
I was.
Okay.
Yes, I was.
First of all, what did that entail?
So many things.
Yeah.
I love this question. I never get to talk about this. Being part of the Chamber of Commerce essentially is a volunteer role. We're not paid, and it's very passionate people who want to build a better community in the small business aspect. Mm-hmm. So I was the direct person between companies, businesses, local community people in the eastern suburbs and council.
How was it like being involved in that group throughout COVID? I'm sure it was intense.
Yeah, I actually stepped out of the role. Probably it was 2020.
Okay,
so
cool.
It's been a little bit of time since, but I was such an advocate, obviously, for sustainability. And the reason I got involved was because if I'm going to start a sustainable company, I don't just want to talk about it. I want to make shit happen.
Yeah.
And that meant directly infiltrating my local community and my local government and my local council and taking action and actually making shit happen on the inside.
Yeah.
And being a business owner, as you know, growth comes with your direct community and your bubble and your support system. That's where it starts, right? Yeah. So I already had a beautiful relationship with every cafe shop and every restaurant and, every bar and every bookstore and whatever.
Because look, trying to be that advocate and for change, do you find it was actually easier independently through business rather than going through these more traditional political or council levels?
It wasn't about easier. It was I wanted to hit every angle.
Okay.
Because being a business owner, it can also be a lot of talk. I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to make this happen. But I was actually going and sitting down with the local councillors directly involved in decision making and not just questioning everything they said, but giving them solutions for the red tape they kept presenting me.
Yeah.
So I felt more in control and in more power that I was actually doing something.
Yeah. And that makes sense. My question was going to be how you manage all of this with everything else you
don't.
do. So that's the answer there. Before we get into Sol Cups, I want to kind of go back a little bit because similar to me, your first business wasn't necessarily a straight path. You had very different interests and passions in high school. Can you kind of tell me what your passions were in high school and then where that led you immediately after?
Yeah. So I was one of those obscure people that just didn't want to be at school. I had a tough time. I had a lot of depression and mental health, issues going on. And I was just never passionate about anything other than the creative arts and learning in all aspects. But I just I didn't go to math class. Okay. You never saw me opening a textbook. But I fell in love with ancient history and I fell in love with learning about leadership and success and the ancient strategies to what that looked like then, and in fact how much it is the same now.
Yeah.
So I became an expert in all things ancient history, the Augustan period, Roman times, and I was excelling. Like I was literally like winning national awards kind of things.
So what were you studying specifically? I'm a little bit ignorant to ancient history. I did ancient Egypt, and that's pretty much all my knowledge for ancient history. But was this like, I'm going to sound really stupid here, if it's way off like Socrates and that sort of stuff, philosophy, or is it a little bit different?
It was specifically my obsession and passion was the Augustan period, which was the emperor that came after Julius Caesar.
Okay, so this is like the Roman Empire
Exactly.
still?
And it was literally, he was the only emperor to live an entire life successfully reigning without being assassinated, killed, without failing. And he actually took Rome to its prime elite time, and nobody else could do that. Basically, he was the only one. And after that, everything kind of stuffed up, and everything before him was shit as well. Yeah. So it's like the ultimate version of what success as a leader is. That was him.
Okay, cool. So that's your passion, and then from school you'd start an archaeology degree, I believe?
Yeah, dove straight into UNSW to do like ancient history, archaeology. I did art psychology as well because I love language. I love the psychology of language and human behavior, and it's all connected. And I kind of had a difficult experience with a professor and decided to drop everything.
How long did it take for you to drop out?
It was a year. It was about a year.
And was it just that experience with the professor, or did you realize that this wasn't for you?
I realized that no matter how passionate I was and no matter how much I loved learning about all of this, it wasn't enough for me.
Okay. Like what do you mean it wasn't enough?
It was my personality type is like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it better than anyone.
Yeah.
And I had this experience with these professors where I wasn't taken seriously because I was female and I thought this is a load of shit and a waste of my time. Sorry for the language.
You think they were threatened by like your presence, and you're a bit like, how much?
That's not my problem though.
Yeah.
I was 18.
Of course it's not.
What presence? I'm 18. I'm like the most innocent person in the world at that time. I wasn't thinking about anything other than writing this amazing essay. Like so stupid, but so in it. And I had these big goals. I wanted to go and work at Masada in Israel and go to Pompeii in Rome and like be in it and like make shit happen. And meanwhile, instead of him taking me seriously and praising my work, I'm being failed because I was propositioned.
Wow.
And I obviously said no, right? And what do you do with that at 18 when you're innocent and you don't really understand the depth, like the magnitude of this scenario?
Obviously you understand it, I'm sure, a little bit more now at your age, but what's going through your head at that time when you are 18, you're so fresh, you're so innocent, you're naive, and this happens? What are you feeling?
I was like, I need to get the hell out of here. Like, this is like ridiculous. Like, how can I need to just remove myself from this environment and go and be taken seriously and reset. And I was working very hard. I did like double the amount of coursework you were meant to.
Okay.
Because when you're passionate, it's easy, right? You're just cracking on.
Yeah.
And I just dropped everything and left. And
Did you tell your parents or your friends about what happened?
Probably my friends, but I didn't. It wasn't even a thing in my mind.
Yeah,
it was
you just needed to get out. You just like whatever.
Move on.
Was any part of that archaeological experience? Do you think any part of you inside of your head knew that maybe it wasn't actually the best career move in terms of like financial capability for success moving forward? Was that a part of it? Or?
I never once thought about that.
Yeah.
Never in my life since the beginning of time have I ever thought about financial success.
Okay.
That doesn't happen for me because I believe money comes and goes and I'll be successful always, anyway, regardless.
Success isn't how much money you have anyway. It's how happy you are. And like to wake up and do what you love every single day. Yeah. Like if you could pay all the bills you needed to pay and you could be like working as an archaeologist in all these dig sites and investigating all these like ancient artifacts and texts and you're happy, dude, you've already won.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
And that's with anything, right?
100%. And that's something I've had to learn as well. I learned really quickly and it's like easy to learn, when you have a bit of money, that money doesn't make you happy. But now like I would much rather earn a smaller amount of money and get to genuinely do what I love every day than work like 12, 14 hours a day doing something I hate and be rich because what's the point?
Exactly. Because you're not dying with your money. You can't spend it later. Yeah. You know, you might as well enjoy yourself while you've got the time.
Okay, cool. And you said something before which I thought was really interesting, and it might come out later in the conversation, but you said you studied art psychology, and then you said it's actually linked to everything.
Yes.
Have you used anything that you learned through your studies and your experience with like ancient texts and that psychology and the art that still is relevant today and that you use in business or life?
Can I be really honest with you?
Yeah.
I don't think I learned a thing in university.
Yeah.
I was not present. I was not there. For me, I'm always learning, and I have a deep, deep passion for human behavior and psychology. And because of my curiosity and my passion, it is the reason I'm successful.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand people, you don't understand business. If you don't understand people, you don't understand your employees. Like, you need to create this environment around you, and you need to communicate to your team, to your customers, to your partners, whoever it is you're working with or working for. You need to be able to ensure that what you're trying to express is actually being heard and communicated to. And that only happens when you understand people. I
agree. And it's something that I feel like was part of my initial success in terms of the marketing for Happy Skin Co. I didn't have a business degree. I didn't have any corporate experience. Like I did law in uni. I lasted 2 months. Like I hated it. But from there, I hated that so much. I actually went and did acting, and a big part of the acting training, I was acting for 3-4 years full time. And the technique I used was Miser technique. And it's all about studying and observing human behavior and what motivates people and different things like that. I subconsciously didn't realize I was learning so many lessons that I could use in all facets of life. And I think initially why some of our marketing did so well with the business was because I didn't know, like, okay, this is how you set up a marketing plan. And you need to have this, this, and this. I just thought of, okay, put my head in the position of a buyer and like what would motivate me to purchase this product or what would make me interested in. And coming from that place of like thinking as a human being and thinking as your customer, it's like, it's the simplest thing you can do and probably 100%. The most effective. It's particularly if you don't already have that framework, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you know what? It can be taught, but it also can't.
Yeah.
Like it does come down to the reality. If we're talking about business owners and entrepreneurs and, you know, successful companies, the reality is that founder, that person driving the team, it has to be innately within you. If it's not subconsciously and consciously part of your awareness consistently and constantly, you actually can't have long-term success. It's not physically possible.
It's a really interesting debate in terms of like it's really split. Like business founders, are they born or are they like bred? Like, do you think you have to be born with it or do you think you can create that? What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is if you want it to be easier, you have to be born with it.
Yeah.
If you're not born with it and you want it so badly, you can't let yourself slip up once. Mm-hmm. You have to be on top of your own shit all day, every day, constantly learning, go to therapy, have a mentor, have a support system, have someone holding you accountable if you can't do it yourself, because you're always going to slide back to your, basic sort of, how do you say it, like how you're originally sort of programmed.
And I think the most important part to that is removing all the bullshit, removing all the ego and just being really honest with yourself. And obviously not just being honest with yourself, you need to have that level of self-awareness to realize that, hey,
what do I need? Maybe
I'm not meant to be the CEO of a massive company, but that's okay because really, I don't really fucking care about that. I want to be the creative director or I want to be whatever. It doesn't have to be. I feel like so many people think now it's like been put on a pedestal to be like, be the number one, be like up the top. And like that lifestyle isn't for everyone. Like it's fucking hard. Do you know what I mean? To be like, and I don't think I couldn't.
It's a service driven role.
Oh yes.
You are at service all day, like without a second to yourself. Yep. All you live for must be those around you. That is being a CEO, a founder, a leader. You're at a service constantly and you have to love it.
Yep.
And not everybody can do that. It's tiring, it's draining, it's a lot.
And that's something I've learned as well. And that's the two pillars. Like there's on one side, like to serve and like you have to be of service. Like to be the CEO, to be the number one in a business, you have to be really, really selfless.
Yep.
Like particularly if you want to be successful and you want to be respected, you have to be very selfless. And it's like the difficult balance for me is like I really aspire to be a great leader and to be of service to the people around me. But then at the same time, the biggest core value to me and my life, and I'm not saying value off the top of my head, like, okay, for what, like sustainability or, fitness. I'm saying core value for me as a person that I couldn't change if I wanted to is freedom. And now you can't live life with a full expression of freedom if you want to be that number one of a 100-employee company.
Yeah.
You just can't.
I fully relate to that wholeheartedly because it's also in me. I need freedom. I can't be, held down. I get claustrophobic. I want to run away. And I'm very similar to you. But you can find that within that role. It's about, setting boundaries, creating awareness for yourself, and then ensuring that on top of all the service and the support that you create as a very strong leader, you have to be consistently looking after yourself. Because if you're not optimal, nothing else happens. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that because I was going to
I'll tell you the story.
Where we're going with this is like, okay, burnout, right? For me, I know, and this is something that I've only really admitted to myself probably in the last 12 months, I would rather be the founder than the CEO 100% of the time. I would never aspire truly to how I want to live my life. I don't want to be the CEO of a 100-person company. Yeah, I would love to run team like a 10 to 20 team and get to be able to have really close relationships with them and then be able to have other projects like the podcast and experience my life. And then if I was running a business and it got to that point, it would be like an amazing privilege to put in a CEO who's going to do 10 times better than me anyway.
100%.
But burnout. Now, you're someone who can uniquely talk about the experience of burnout. Can you take me back to kind of the process and all the things you were doing that led up to that,
moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically that year where I, left uni and went to go travel, had the most beautiful, wholesome experience, like traveling with my best friend, just beautiful. Came back and realized my passion, my why, the reason I've been put on this earth is to empower and inspire those around me to be the best version of themselves in whatever aspect that means, whether it's in business, personal life, friendships, family, whatever. And I became a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And I learned everything I needed to learn to be a successful business owner during that time. Yep. I had the best clients in the world. I was highly successful, highly driven, at the age of 19, I'm basically handed a free gym. Wow. I'm given an entire database of 20 years of this man's gym. He's like a veteran in the industry. Thank you, Jamie Hayes. I love you.
Shout out to Jamie.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He trusted me. I'm like this 19-year-old little adorable, passionate thing that's like, will do work as hard as I have to. Hands me this gym to manage and run and, on top of whatever my own personal clients. And he goes go for gold, have fun. And I built this business from 0 to 100 in a very short amount of time. And that came from community building, relationship building, systems, processes. This is the funny thing. I always get asked, where did you learn all of this? Was it school? Was it uni? I don't know. I can't tell you.
Yep.
I just know. I know how to run a business. I know how to set up systems, how to create processes, how to be efficient, how to be productive, and to continuously assess and change it all the time, all day.
Yeah.
And I know how to build teams and I know how to inspire those around me to be their best self. And that's what we did. We had an amazing small group of trainers around us. We had a gym, 2 rooms like this, basically, and 200 clients.
Yeah.
And classes running all day. Always packed and full and booked out. And it was the most fun I've ever had in my life.
And how long was this for, that at the gym?
So it would have been, 19 to 21.
Okay, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and so much fun, just bliss. And during this time, I started another company. It was my first official startup where I was developing mental health workshops to deliver in high schools, unis, corporate spaces. I had this awesome team of science-driven, psychologists and physiotherapists and exercise scientists writing these programs with me. I then stupidly thought, let's go back to uni.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Tried to do a business degree and a psychology as a minor. Yeah. I left after 1 semester.
Yeah, what made you make that decision to go back to uni?
I don't know. I think I felt, you know what? I do know. I felt guilty because my grandparents who immigrated here, in their 20s, didn't get the opportunity to use their success. My grandparents are so smart. One worked for NASA in Russia. Wow. One was a draftsperson architect. The other one was every kind of engineer, mathematician, scientist you can think of. Very bright people. Yeah. came here with nothing, end up working like as a bookkeeper and in a factory, you know, or a taxi driver or whatever it is. You know, I felt a lot of guilt to my heritage and to my culture. So
did they have expectations of you to go to university?
Yeah, they were like, you dumbass, like you're so smart, go to uni.
But that comes out of the right place, and like
Yeah.
from when they were growing up, and then they moved here and had that experience, that was genuinely seen as the right thing to do, and by a lot of people still is today. But that's such a old school mentality, particularly immigrating from Europe. I imagine that's even more drilled into them.
Absolutely. Look, like my culture, we're actually Ukrainian. You know, they're coming from a communist, anti-Semitic country. They're running away. You know, they want their kids and their grandkids to have everything. So, however, I'm the black sheep of the family. Okay, I'm the naughty one. I'm the rebel. I'm the one that argues and fights for what I want, and I'm not scared to speak up. You know, we're passionate people, so it's fine. I got my way. I dropped out.
Yeah.
They dealt with it. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
You know.
Before we move on, I want to ask about your grandparents. Obviously, they've lived like an incredibly rich and intense life. I'm sure they would have a lot of experiences. Did they pass on any lessons or messages to you that have stuck with you?
I wouldn't necessarily have like specific moments where they're like, here's some advice.
Yeah.
But I'm surrounded by very strong women.
I imagine.
No offense, but most of the men in my family are useless, okay?
Yeah.
My grandfather, beautiful man. I love him to death. He's the most special person to me, but useless in terms of he didn't help immigrate. He didn't do anything. He wasn't the breadwinner for the family. He didn't do anything to support anyone around him. I don't have a relationship with my father. He's even more useless.
Yeah.
But my mom and my grandma are the most beautifully powerful, independent, strong women, and that's enough to say that if they could get through what they got through, which is some seriously messed up stories, don't even want to tell you, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all right.
So look, growing up with those role models, you think influenced the woman you've become?
Of course. It's like, yes, I've been through some really tough times, especially in the last, couple of years actually, but I'm very resilient and I'm incredibly self-empowered to know that no matter how difficult things get, I can get up and I can look after myself, and I have so much love in my heart and gratitude and happiness that any bad, dark, negative thing that's happened in my life, it hasn't impacted who I am as a person, and I'm still, I'm not ruined and I don't have baggage, and I work on myself so much and I bring so much light around me that, I know I'm going to be okay.
How did that business in the mental health space, in terms of running these programs for high schools or corporate spaces, how did that idea come up?
It's just, I need to be in my element, and that's public speaking, and that's sharing my passion and inspiring others, and that really for me happens when I talk. And I started with what I knew. Like I went back to the community. I spoke to all the schools. I spoke to all the unis because I had a direct contact with them, and that's just how it started. Yep. But the goal and intention was obviously to infiltrate corporate space and just, build a reputation and grow. And it was just something that was helping me fulfill the things I'm passionate about, and it just made sense.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, I wasn't living that life, was I? So uni, running this gym, clients back to back, starting this startup, and then on top of that, I have an addictive personality. I'm an A-type. I need to be the best. I thought, let's compete physically.
Yeah. On top of everything else you're trying to manage.
Let's lift some heavy shit. I was just a gym junkie. I was so everywhere.
What sort of comp are you doing?
Not like physique on stage or anything crazy like that. I trained a lot of people to be on stage. I just I knew I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
But just, powerlifting, just fun, crazy, not CrossFit, but just those crazy comps that are small and internal.
Do you think that came from a bit of your addictive personality to take it to the extreme?
I just had so much fun. It's just the most amazing lifestyle to be in that fitness industry. And, I'd be going to conferences like Filex, which are 3-day fitness expos where all you do 12 hours a day is work out with other cool people and you learn from all the best. And I just, anything I could do to be better and the best in the industry, it was all about just diving into what is accessible, to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then what happened from there?
The uncomplicated version is I woke up one day and I couldn't move. Literally.
Just out of nowhere.
Well, look, now that I I spent a long time looking back and analyzing it. There were signs. I was just ignoring them. I remember showing up to teach clients and I was so unwell and so weak and so physically just done. Like I'd have to sit on a stool and teach.
Yeah.
Like it's like I blacked those memories out, but they were there. I had those days, but I would push through and then I'd like get through a full day of work and then train myself for like 3 hours at 10 p.m.
Did you question why that was happening at the time, or you just thought I've got to work through it?
I think I knew I was depressed.
Yeah.
I think I knew deep down it was all a coping mechanism, all a distraction, didn't have to deal with myself or my life. And I woke up that morning in 10 out of 10 chronic pain.
Wow.
Like I would never on my worst enemy wish what I felt on anyone.
And was this when the chronic fatigue came, or was the what's the word?
Fibromyalgia. Yeah. So it's rather complex. I don't understand. No one really understands what happened to me or what's wrong with me. Let's just call it autoimmune, and no one really understands.
That's the whole autoimmune thing, right? When they can't really describe what it is, they just throw it in that basket, right?
Look, I had chronic fatigue since 8 years old,
Really?
which was onset through trauma.
Okay.
And I had been unwell my whole life. I had year 9 and year 10 where I didn't go to high school. I was basically in bed or in hospital. And that was another bout of like, not burnout, but real autoimmune dysfunctionality.
And what did you use to get out of these like struggles?
Honestly, I think it was very much mental health related. Like the worst depression I had was that grade 9 and 10. And I remember it was just 2 years that I blacked out in my life. I can't even tell you what happened in those 2 years. I have no indication of it. But I know the morning I woke up and said, I'm ready to feel better.
Really?
And I said that to myself. And from that day on, every single day, I did whatever I had to go to the beach, stand on the sand, meditate, yoga, work out again, go for walks, whatever I had to do to get to not like a functional state. And that's always been like that for me. It's a mental decision, right? How long can you feel sorry for yourself? Yeah. How long can you sit in the shit and let yourself sit there? And until you're ready, you won't feel better, basically.
Tell me about that day you woke up and you decided, that's it, I've had enough, I'm going to be better.
I don't have a lot of clear memories. This is the truth.
Yeah.
There's not a lot I remember. There's pinnacle little moments. And, I was in year 10, year 11, whatever it was. And I just was sick of it. I didn't have an answer for myself. I didn't know why I was so depressed. There's nothing wrong. I had a beautiful life, beautiful friends, mum that loves me, like all good in the hood, like no real like anything going on. It's chemical, right? A lot of the time it really is just whatever's happening in your body. I was just ready. I was like, I'm sick of trying to give people the answer of what's wrong with me. I'm just ready to feel better.
Yeah. So now your relationship with managing mental health and self-love, what does that look like today?
It's very important. So, to backtrack slightly, that morning when I woke up in chronic pain, this was back in 2016, I felt like I lost everything because I was essentially immobile. Like I could not move. I could not lift a glass up myself. I could not stand up. I was sent to the emergency and I was put on so many drugs, so much morphine, so much cortisol and, to try and reduce this pain. And then I went through a 3 to 6 month stint of, pretty much being with a walking stick if I was lucky enough to leave the house myself. And I remember saying to myself, you've got 3 months to feel like shit.
You gave yourself a time.
Yep. You've got 3 months to feel everything. Be as depressed as you need, cry every day if you have to. I didn't know if I was going to walk again. I had doctors telling me, you are going to get worse. You're going to end up in a wheelchair. You're going to be on drugs for the rest of your life. Good luck, babe. We don't know what's wrong with you.
Did you believe them or you knew?
I didn't care.
Okay.
I didn't take anything they gave me. I said, you can keep telling me whatever you want. I'm going to sort myself out. Don't worry. Yeah. I'm fine. If that's your view, then I'll see it's somebody else.
And you mentioned like a therapist before. Have you spoken to like a therapist about this sort of stuff?
Yeah, it was actually a therapist that figured out what the diagnosis was.
Okay. How did that happen?
Yeah, I was explaining to her, like obviously it was quite a traumatic time. Yeah. I really was crying every day. It was just like your brain can't comprehend going from obsessed with exercise and moving, and your whole life is about physical movement, to like not being able to sit up.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it was just a very important recovery aspect, is seeing somebody, you know, almost twice a week for a while. And I was giving her all the symptoms of what I'm feeling, and she cuts me off and she's like, let me look at something.
Yeah.
And she starts like typing away at her computer. She writes this long word down that I don't understand. It's fibromyalgia. And she's like, give this to your doctor and ask him to test you.
Wow.
And I'm like, great. Sure.
So was there treatments for that, or because it's autoimmune, there's not really much?
This is the answer I got from the number one specialist in the country. Yeah. He looked at me in the eye and he said, I can't help you. You're one of those special cases. We're probably going to use you to study from. And what are you supposed to say to that? I'm 21 years old. Like, what do you do with that information?
Had you withdrawn at that point, or what's going through your head?
All I remember was devastated. I was devastated because I've spent since 8 years old feeling like shit and having no support to make me feel better. So imagine from about that 8-year-old age, I have not had a single day in my life where I'm not in physical pain, I'm not in exhaustion, or in some kind of, you know, lacking of whatever it is. So my, you know, feeling optimal, feeling really good is probably like somebody else feeling 40%. Yeah. You know, and even now I've come so far and I feel so amazing, and my optimal is still probably somebody's 60%.
So how do you go about generating energy and motivation for yourself to get to the day, but at the same time balancing that with not pushing your body too hard to you know, fall into burnout again?
It's so hard. And my body changes all the time. So I've never picked the perfect formula. It doesn't exist. So it's consistent self-awareness, taking time to check in with yourself, having a deep connection to your body and listening to it. That's a lot of therapy got me there. Yep. A lot of work on myself where, you know, really, like you said, cutting the bullshit, letting go of the ego, and actually assessing yourself and being connected to yourself. And it took me years to understand what that meant. And there's no perfect formula, and I failed at it many, many times. I can't tell, because if we talk about what soul business success looked like at its optimal, you know, peak before COVID, I was never in the country for more than 2 weeks at a time. We're doing upwards of 50 trade shows globally. I have an office in London, a team all over, like the UK and Europe, Auckland team, Sydney team. There's a lot going on, and I don't have a minute to myself. Yeah. Tell me how many times I ended up in hospital or, you know, burning out for 2 weeks or, you know, whatever it is. And that's,
I want to ask you a question about that. Let's call it a tactic that you said to yourself. I'm going to give myself 3 months. I'm going to be as sad as I want. I'm going to cry if I want to. I'm going to feel sorry for myself, but that's it. Is that an actual technique that like therapists like would recommend or use? Because I just already said that. And obviously it's a much smaller example, but sometimes, you know, those days in business you have them and just everything's going wrong. And it's just like one thing after another. And you know, those days happen. And a lot of the times I'm like, cop it on the chin and you just keep working forward, set a plan. How am I going to overcome these problems? But sometimes it just gets to a certain point and it might only be like 5:30 and I'll be like, you know what? That's it. I've had enough of today. I'm just going to whatever. I need to take time there's been so many problems and so much stress. And if I keep pushing myself through this today, it's not going to make me feel good. So sometimes I'm just like, screw this. I'm not even going to think about it. I'm going to watch a movie. I'm going to go for a run. I'm just going to stop working way earlier than I would. And I'm going to deal with it tomorrow. And giving myself that time to just, I wouldn't say feel sorry for, but decompress works for me. So I was wondering, that sounds like something, is that something that is recommended or just worked for you?
Look at it this way. In that circumstance, no one told me to do that. That was my own awareness and coping mechanism. But it taught me a valuable lesson that if I don't feel my feelings, and if I don't let myself have that moment, it doesn't, like, you don't process it and you hold on to it and you store it and you get sicker. And that is the story of my life. I am an emotional sponge. I'm an empathetic person. I store information. I find it hard to let go of things. And then I also absorb other people's stuff and other people's feelings. I'm like literally a sponge. Yeah. They call me SpongeBob.
Is that like you know, an empath?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, I'm quite like I'm an extreme version of it. So it took me that experience to basically say, like, mate, if you don't learn to implement that into a daily process, you're never going to, you're not going to function. You're going to end up dead basically before you get to 23.
Yeah. Now, is it off the back of this coming out of that and that recovery that started Sol? Is this when Sol, those little seeds of Sol began to start?
I'll give you the basically, I don't have the exact moment it happened, but it started once I was sort of back home and in recovery, and it was a conversation as a family that we kept having. And for context, my family's business, which myself and my brother are very heavily involved in, we're in an incredibly enmeshed family. We're all involved in each other's companies. We have a promotional products company, and my father and mother started it many, many years ago, basically manufacturing key rings for Quicksilver and Roxy. And I grew up in the factory and I grew up working with them. So the idea of product development is like my middle name.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
You've been around it your whole
We
life.
just know. We know what to do. We know how to make things happen. We have relationships with offshore manufacturing now for 40 plus years. Obviously not me, not that old. But that's all I know. That's what I live and breathe. So when we as a family discovered this idea, we fell in love with hand-blown glass. And my mum and I are very stylish and we love beautiful, high-quality things. We don't spend a lot of money and we don't buy a lot of stuff. I'm very minimalistic. I have like 3 outfits.
Yeah.
Like the shoes I'm wearing I've owned for 15 years. Like it's not like we're very minimal people, but we love high-quality stuff. And Mum and I always had this dream of launching a homewares range with hand-blown glass.
Yeah.
And I was very passionate about the environment and sustainability and health. And I thought, how can we create something that is a platform for education, that we can share our obsession with health? Because my mum also has an autoimmune condition, and we spent the last 20 years of my life learning about mine and hers. How can we create something that allows us to have a platform for education, inspire people, have it be the healthiest product in the world, but also the quality that we're so obsessed with.
Yeah.
And that's how the Sol Cup was born.
Yeah.
And it happened while I was basically in bed.
And when did you guys launch?
2016.
Now, I heard a story about you in like the 2 weeks before you,
Yeah.
like the 2 weeks before you even had the final physical sample. Didn't you sell something like 6,000 units pre-sale?
Yeah, so I love this story. I had this goal. I'm sitting, literally it's just me and a laptop, right?
Yeah.
At like Cali Press on Hall Street in Bondi, or like Gertrude and working and making phone calls all day. And I had this one clear vision. It's every single cafe and coffee roaster has to know me by first and last name.
Yeah.
And that's goal number 1. And you've got, 6 months to do it. And basically we had to, because it's all self-funded. We didn't have investors. It's whatever I had in my pocket and whatever mum had. And we had to commit to purchasing a small container, which is actually 8,000 cups.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't start with 8,000 units
container.
when they start a business.
They start with like, air freight 200 max. Yeah. Well, I don't do things small.
Yeah.
And this is my mentality of, if I'm going to do something, I do it better than anyone. Mm-hmm. So basically mum's looking at me and she's like, okay, well, we'll press go. We'll buy this container. We picked our colors. We did the packaging. I mean, that's a whole other story of product development. The psychology and the process that I put in to get the product to where it is now. You can imagine how much attention to detail.
What did some of those like moments look like?
I fought for that box like you have no idea, because I designed it so specifically so that when the consumer opens it, it releases just the amount of oxytocin and serotonin that makes you slightly addicted to it, just like an iPhone box. There's a lot of work that goes involved. The colors, the positioning, the text, the design, the functionality, the colors. Like every color was picked and produced based on the reaction a human has when they see it. Like I know what I'm doing.
Reaction,
like there's a process to everything. And, they were like, okay, we can do this. It's 8,000 cups. It's a lot of money to outlay, but we believe in you. You've got 6 weeks to sell it. And we did it in 2.
And you had to back yourself. If you order 8,000 units, you have to go
Absolutely.
all in. With that process you were just talking about, how long did that take?
8 months.
8 months. See, that's the thing. Sometimes people expect to launch a business in 3 months. And I remember me and my, like, I launched Happy Skin Co with a friend named George, and we had to move back our launch date like 2-3 times because like, just and we're like, oh no, we're being lazy. You know, you need to set a date and you got to work to it. But I'm like, we would have been sacrificing so much to do that. And I realize now, like, you can't rush these things. Okay. So first 6,000, you sold at pre-sale. I actually want to know, because I think it's such a valuable story. Tell me the process. You say, okay, I'm going to go into this cafe, and obviously it's about building relationship, but tell me that process from the moment you walk into a cafe you've never been into before.
This is like my joy. It's like going on a blind date, you know. I just it's so much fun because it's where I get to use my brain. It's the human behavior aspect. It's psychology. It's like, how do you control the space and the environment but make them feel safe and loved and supported? It's sales, right?
Yeah.
But how do you turn sales into authenticity and building a real friendship and relationship? Because the stockists I have in 2016 are still my stockists today. So, and also just a sidebar, we were not an e-commerce business. This is a different ball game. We are wholesale and B2B.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the trauma of building a website and worrying about Instagram and influencers. I didn't give a shit. I was building a beautiful community on socials. I started with 0 followers. I ran it myself. We didn't have ads, Facebook. None of that mattered to me. What mattered was every coffee shop in Australia, in Sydney, in Melbourne, and wherever had to have our product on their shop front. Everyone had to see Sol. And that's exactly what happened. And that experience was, I walk in, okay, let's talk about coffee, right? I walk in and I walk straight up to the barista. I'm not looking for the manager or the owner. I'm going barista. And I'm going, hey man, like, I want to show you something.
Yeah.
I'm working on this amazing product. Can you please give me some feedback? I need to know, does it fit under the, you know, is it fitting perfectly? What's the pour like? What's it like when you hold it? How's it keeping temperature? Was it easy to put the lid on? Do you like the color?
Yeah.
Like, give me your vibe. What do you think of this? And, you know, they'd open it and be like, what is this? Like, what is a reusable cup and why on earth do I need it? And, you know, or they'd give me some love and be like, yeah, like, this is really cool. It's so beautiful. And that was the first point of contact. Whether or not they showed anyone else or spoke to the manager, that did not matter to me. I just wanted the coffee industry to feel like they knew me. They were starting to get to see my face and know this product. But I can tell you, almost every single time I did that, straight away, they're like, you know, hold on. Stay here. I need to show the manager. I need to show my boss. And he'd come running or she'd come running and they'd have a look and they'd be like, yes, can I put my logo on it? Yeah, you can actually. Like, no worries. Like, I was revolutionizing the co-branding aspect. And they're like, is there a minimum? Like, is it going to be really expensive? And, you know, actually it's super affordable and quick turnaround time. Like, you know, I'll get it to you next week. Like, let's put an order through. And we'd sit down and we'd make it happen. And there you go, done.
Do you guys do the printing of like the branding in Australia?
Yeah, so every country that we operate in has its own local printer and warehouse. So everything is localized.
And that will go on like the sleeves and the lid, or like
just the sleeve, yeah. So just on the opposite side of our logo, yeah.
That's so smart.
Well, that basically, I can tell you now, even to this day, you know, a good 80% of our revenue is from co-branding and corporate orders. Think every big company off the top of your head, and I can guarantee you $50, I've probably got them reusable cups with their logo on it. And that's a global level.
Yeah.
And that's from the accessibility, the ease, the price, the turnaround time, and amazing customer service.
And how do you move from going into cafes, because it's quite easy, you can walk in, build that relationship, come back as many times as you want. But how do you transition from cafes, restaurants, bars to some of these big corporate places where you can't just necessarily walk in and use that little tactic?
Obviously, there's quite the traditional, you know, phone and email, but I'll tell you how it started.
Yeah.
For 2 years, I did the Bondi markets every Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Did not miss a day. And the first big client we ever got was JP Morgan, and they ordered something like 5,000 cups in one color with their logo on it. And I didn't have that stock.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I have like 200 available, like max.
Yeah.
So they did their first custom order. So direct from factory, manufactured, offshore, direct to door. Didn't touch my hands. I'm like, okay, here we go. This is what we're doing.
That's business,
This is
right?
happening. This is starting. And I'm telling you, between 2016 to 2018, we grew so quickly. I went from me on a laptop to an office of like 15 to launching New Zealand company, because everything's separate, to launching the UK company, to having an office in London with 5 employees, to like not knowing what to do with myself and my time, and how quickly everything was just growing, to like landing, you know, one of the biggest European franchise clients in the world, and signing contracts and distributors and launching in Japan and Hong Kong and Korea and Malaysia. And, you know, like it was unbelievable growth.
What moment are you most proud of?
I'm proud of everything. I can't pinpoint a moment. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of my mum.
Yeah.
You know, she's still my business partner today. And I'm just proud that we're making change and actually having a positive impact on the world around us.
Was there a moment for you where maybe it was that JP Morgan moment where you realized, okay, life is starting to get a little bit different now?
It happened to me when I first flew to London, and I did my first big London Coffee Festival trade show. And if you've never heard of it, to give you context, they let 3,000 new people in every 3 hours over a 4-day period. Wow. And the line, like I remember filming it, that was the moment for sure. From the door to like, you know, people waiting in line, it was like a 7-minute video.
Wow.
And we got over the UK and Europe, like our first, you know, 1,000 stockists in a 3-day period. And
from the trade show. So the trade show is like the best way for you guys to sign up
at the time.
At the time?
At the time, trade shows were vital to actually expanding our reach, because all the stockists come there, all the department stores go there, all the big corporates are there. You know, everyone in the coffee industry is there, so you build that relationship. And then we've got gift and homeware trade shows, you know, premium boutique shows. Like, you know, I'm flying all over the world doing this stuff.
I love that so much. Like the more conversations I have with people, I just realize I've already realized it, of course, but like there's so many different ways you can go about setting up and growing a business. Like that's so different to my journey. And like trade shows is something that I wouldn't even have thought of when it's such a core like part of your business. Now, was it London office or New Zealand office that was the first one that you opened?
Simultaneously.
Both? How do you open an office in a new country?
You just get over there and make shit happen. It's setting up a new company. So like you would in Australia, you have to go through that whole process of registering, opening bank accounts, you know, proving all the information is legal and correct, and then setting it all up, because you can't legally import goods into the country without being a registered business. Yeah. So it's a process, but you can learn, and we learned on the fly, and that's what we did.
What do you think's been your hardest day in business so far?
My hardest day in business was, I flew back from Japan when lockdown first started happening. I was just signing a contract with a big department store. And I got called back early to Sydney because we're about to go in lockdown. And that month was the biggest month in sales in history of our business in time. I can't tell you the number, but it was astronomical. Yep. And the hardest day was the biggest part of that month's sales had decided to pull out because of lockdown, because of COVID happening in Europe. And I convinced them to keep a portion of it because they had prepaid a deposit. But losing that relationship and that opportunity, which, look, we might get back there, like, you know, we're communicating now, was so devastating because we had so much happening in that month of new product launches, new category launches, you know, needing new staff and new teams to be employed in the international stuff we're about to launch in throughout Asia. And to lose this month of like what it should have been, and to basically almost have to start from zero within like a 3-month period, that has been the biggest, most difficult thing I've experienced in business.
What did you do that night you found out?
I don't think I slept. I think I just went for a very long walk because that's my therapy, and just, you know, had to talk it out with mum and just be like, okay, well, what's the game plan? And we just started planning for the next quarter.
How much did COVID change your business? Because it had either a really
Greatly.
good or a very negative impact on people's business, it seems.
I lost 90% of my business overnight. It was devastating because we were a wholesale and B2B company, not an e-commerce. So exactly as you think, we shifted. And the fact that I'm still here and standing and we're still functional and successful and we survived, very proud of myself, very proud of my team. And we now are on a beautiful journey back upwards to where we were and to surpass that as well. But the hardest time of my life I don't even know how I grew up with this company. I'm 28 now.
Yeah.
You know, I was 22 when we started. Like I was besides myself. I'm like, where has the last 7 years gone? Everything I worked hard for has disappeared.
And what did that period teach you about yourself?
How resilient I am, and how no matter what gets thrown in my face or what happens, there's always a solution.
What do you think your message is? Through everything you've had to struggle through and then overcome and thrive on the other side of, what do you think your main message is, Rebecca's message?
There is always a solution. You can't have solution without soul.
Yeah.
And I mean that, SOUL as well.
Yeah.
Like it's the message is that life is hard and everyone goes through things, but you don't have to sit in the rain and complain about it. You can open an umbrella.
Because you do some like one-on-one consulting and mentoring, right?
Yeah.
What are these people coming to you for help with generally?
Mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset. They always have amazing business ideas. You look at it and you're like, you're a genius. I wish I came up with that. That's phenomenal. And their number one struggle is productivity, creating clean, simple systems, having value of their own time, and also confidence. And as you know, as a successful business owner, you have to be so aware of yourself and your, things that maybe you're not very good at, your weaknesses, maybe you're impatient, maybe you get angry easy, maybe, whatever it is, you have to know yourself so well so you can support yourself.
Yeah.
And what always comes up with my coaching clients is, can you be an empowered version of yourself? Like, can you stand up into your worth? Because right now you're talking as if you've failed. I need you to talk as if you've already done it and achieved and are successful. And then let's just write down the things that will get you there and let's just do them.
Now, your growth journey you've gone on, have you had to do like a lot of reading or studying about psychology, about mindset, or do you feel like life has kind of taught you these things on its own?
Bit of both.
Yeah.
I think I've been through a lot in my life. I think the hardest thing I ever experienced in my life was the relationship I just got out of.
Yeah.
That taught me everything. We can talk about it later. I read so many books. I am always surrounded by a mentor or people that are smarter than me. I am very big on education and learning, but I have been through so much. I have been through so many horrible things in my life that without them, I wouldn't have the deep understanding of myself and people. And I think that is a big testament to my success and why I have such a strong, amazing team, and why even in the shit, we're still doing better than a lot of other businesses out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that relationship, let's unpack that a little bit. Do you feel like business impacted or has impacted your ability to have these relationships, or it's a positive thing if you meet the right person?
I always put love first. I'm a big romantic, and I will always put family, friends, and love before anything else because it's what makes me happy, because it's people, right? I've never had an issue where my relationship was impacted because of work, but I've had many issues where my work is impacted because of my relationship, because it's such an emotional toll if it goes wrong. And the last 3 years I've been in a very emotionally abusive relationship, and I managed to finally get the strength and the willpower and the self-love to walk away, and that happened very recently. And I think that transformed my whole life.
Yeah, that's a massive shift, right?
Huge. I can't even tell you. And to get to this point in my life now, through everything that I've experienced, whether it was work or this relationship, to know how happy I am in this moment is not worth anything in the world. Like, you can't put a dollar value on it.
And what would your advice be to someone who's in a relationship where they know it's emotionally abusive and a drag on their life? How do you navigate that, and how do you step outside of that knowing that, hey, it is all fresh and new and potentially scary, but like it is beautiful on the other side?
It's very hard. And my advice is you need to get yourself in a safe environment. So if you're lucky enough not to live with that person, it's much easier. So surround yourself with friends, family, and a very good support system, whether it's a therapist or a counselor or anything, and you need to communicate what you need. And what you need is support to remove yourself from the situation. If you're like me, where you actually lived with the person, it's a lot more complicated. It's like that on steroids. It's like, how can you constantly surround yourself with support? Because if you're stuck in ego, like, I don't need help, everything's okay, well, then you're not ready to leave that situation anyway. You know, and it takes time. You have to be kind to yourself. You have to give yourself as much compassion and empathy as you would anybody else, because that, until you get to a place of strength and real self-love and, you know, internal boundaries, it's impossible to leave a scenario that you don't even know you need to leave.
Do people ever blame themselves when they're in these sorts of situations?
I blame myself. You have to blame yourself. You have to hold responsibility for the fact that you're allowing something to occur. Like, it doesn't matter how bad the scenario is. If you choose to stay, then you're responsible for your choice. So it doesn't matter how much my family and my friends screamed at me and said, can you leave this asshole? And can't you see, like, open your eyes. Can't you see what this person's doing to you? And I'm sitting there defending him. I'm delusional. That's my choice. That's me not being accountable for my actions. And until I learned that lesson, I couldn't do anything about
Looking back on that, were you truly delusional, or did a part of you know that this wasn't right for you?
Of course, I knew the whole time. I was devastated. I was depressed. I was unhappy. But I felt trapped. I'm still a human. I'm still, you know, I'll have my own things that I haven't worked on or haven't figured out how to navigate or support myself through whatever traumas I've got. And I was fully aware of how unhappy I was, but I also had this horrible weight on my shoulders of like, but how do I leave? Like, how do I physically move? Like, you know, how do I move myself? It's very hard when you're in it.
And how long was that period where you knew, hey, something's not right?
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
Why do you think it took you so long to make that change? What was holding you back, or what holds people back in this
I was
situation?
attached to a very unhealthy cycle, and it was obviously meeting a familiar need and of whatever I went through in my childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you as Rebecca, how do you ensure this doesn't happen again?
I learnt my lesson.
You learnt your lesson.
You can't ensure it doesn't happen again. You need to consistently work on yourself. Like, I was presented with a situation like a week ago where if I wasn't in my like healthy, happy state, I probably would have fallen into a repetitive cycle. And I'm so proud of myself that I didn't. And I'm like, yes, you learnt your lesson. I'm so like, good job. But it takes a lot of work, and that self-awareness and consistency and being surrounded by beautiful people. And it's like a business, right? You need to be working on yourself all the time to be getting growth and, you know, success and optimization and innovation. You need to be aware and self-aware of yourself and the environment and its impact on you.
Okay, so if this chapter of your life right now was a chapter in a book, what would it be called?
Oh, I don't know. What would it be called? I think self-love, as cliche as that is, because I needed to get to that point to respect myself enough to leave a difficult situation.
So where do you go next? What's next in life and business?
Oh my God, there's so many things happening.
Yeah.
The plans we have for the next 6 months for Sol are undeniably exciting. I'm launching our homewares range, which I've been working on for a while. So we'll be launching Sol Home and Sol Kids, which is the next stage of the company's growth, and most likely venturing into the US as well.
So what are the products that you guys range now?
Now it's reusable cups, reusable water bottles, everything from handle and glass, but then our accessories range. We've got charcoal filter sticks, which just quietly are going to revolutionize how we filter tap water.
Charcoal filter sticks, what are they?
Okay, think about this. you've got a Brita plastic water filter that you buy at Woolies that costs you like $60. And every 3 months you need to pay another $50 for 3 months worth of plastic filters to filter your tap water. I'm giving you the stuff that's inside the filter that you don't need to coat in plastic, that you can bury in soil after 3 months when it's like used up. And it's the most ancient technique of absorbing nasties and impurities. Like if you, God forbid, went to hospital with alcohol poisoning, they're still pumping your stomach with charcoal. It's still how it works. So we have these beautiful Binchotan activated charcoal sticks. You pop them in your water bottle or your carafe. 3 hours later, you got filtered water.
Just like that.
Yep.
And it dissolves. Can you taste it?
Can't taste it. The water tastes better, cleaner.
Yeah, I can't drink tap water. Everything's like filtered for me.
You've got some in your little tote bag. You can try them.
Oh, sick.
Yeah,
That's epic.
Yeah.
Cool.
So things like that, just innovative solutions. We've got straws, we've got tote bags, we've got all the things you'd need to begin a journey in a more sustainable way.
Yeah. And what about yourself following your purpose, your passions? Where do you think that'll lead you? In, whether it's speaking, podcasting, what do you think? Where are you going with that?
I have big plans. I'm writing a book. I will do a TED Talk. Just you wait.
Yeah.
And I'm very much going to start venturing into the world of investing and ensuring my mentoring and supportive coaching grows and that company grows. And I've got some very big plans on that side. Yeah.
And for anyone who wants to buy these beautiful products, which I'm so lucky, I'm going to get them out and show them soon. Where can they purchase Sol Cups?
Solcups.com.
There we go.
It's the best way to go.
And then you're Rebecca Vexler on pretty much everything.
Yeah. If anything I can do for anyone, send me a DM. I'm always happy to listen and support.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for coming in. I think your story, there's so much in that, but like the main thing for people that are struggling and feel like I can't, be successful because of X, Y, Z in my life. I think you're a really good example of, yes, you can, and it might not always be easy and you might not always feel like you want to, but there is a path out of it. And like, look how much you're thriving now. And like each new year is going to bring a new challenge that you overcome, and then you'll grow and you'll be, an even more fuller human being on the other side of it. So thank you for coming in, giving us your time and everything you do. I really do appreciate it. And my awesome gifts that I'm so excited I'm so excited to crack open.
Amazing. No, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Beck. You're a legend. All right, there we go. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, could you please do me a quick favor and hit the follow or subscribe button? I honestly appreciate it more than you know. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.